She called the cops on me, lied to 911, got arrested, and still had the balls to come back. Yeah, Karen's back. But this time she's not just after me. She went after my wife's job. And the HOA. Oh, they didn't learn a damn thing. They lawyered up, sent letters in thick envelopes with bigger words than brains, and tried to sneak their claws into our property again. But here's the thing about fighting people like that. They don't play fair. They play dirty. And when that doesn't work, they get desperate. This chapter, it's not about fences, not about mailboxes. It's about what happens when you punch a bully in the mouth. And he comes back with a lawyer and a smile. Before we jump in, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from. Porch office somewhere. HOA free, I hope. Now, let me take you back to how all this began. Back before the lawsuits, before the sirens, and before the damn gate. Back to the day she knocked on our door, with a clipboard and a fake-ass smile. You work your ass off for 40 years, and what do you want at the end of it? Peace, a place where you can sit on a porch, sip your coffee, listen to the wind, and forget the bullshit. That's all I wanted, just peace. But peace don't mean shit when a Karen moves in next door. Name's Ray Dalton. I'm 61. Retired electrical contractor. My wife Rachel's a 911 dispatcher. Sharp as a tack, and meaner than a rattlesnake if you wake her up too early. We moved out to Oakwood Ridge about 6 months ago, bought ourselves a nice chunk of land, just outside the reach of any homeowners association. That last part was important. I grew up in a trailer and made my way through life the hard way. I didn't bust my knuckles for 4 decades just to have someone tell me what color to paint my door or what kind of damn mailbox I can use. That's why we were very careful to buy land outside the HOA. We got a beautiful 12.5-acre spread. Real country living. No neighbors on either side. Just us, the dog, some birds, and the open sky. But of course, we weren't alone for long. See, the entrance to our property was off the same road as Oakwood Estates, a luxury neighborhood full of tightly packed houses, manicured lawns, and people who call the cops when your grass grows over 3 inches, which is where Karen Wilkins comes in. You ever meet someone whose entire personality is printed on a clipboard? That's Karen, HOA president. Thinks she's the sheriff, judge, and goddamn landlord of the whole block. First time we met, she pulled up in a golf cart. Yep, golf cart. Had her name stenciled on the side in gold letters like she was Queen Elizabeth. She steps out like she owns the gravel beneath her shoes. Hi there, I'm Karen. I'm the HOA president here. Just wanted to say welcome, Rachel, and I smiled politely. I already had a bad feeling. You can smell crazy. And she reeked of lemon-scented tyranny. She handed us a welcome packet. It was a fucking binder. 3 rings. Plastic cover. Full of rules. Now, I know you're technically just outside the HOA, she said, with that passive-aggressive smirk. But your home is within what we call the visual cohesion zone. I blinked. Though what it means, your property can be seen from the street. So we do require that certain standards are upheld, for the sake of neighborhood value. Rachel coughed to hide a laugh. I didn't. Ma'am, I said, we're not part of your HOA. We made sure of it before we bought. You got no say in what we do. Karen's face twitched like she just bit into a lemon. Well, she sniffed. I'm leaving this packet for your reference. Your mailbox doesn't meet community guidelines. It'll need to be replaced within 7 days. She turned on her heel and strutted back to her golf cart. I watched her drive off and threw the binder straight into the fire pit. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. A week later, we got a notice taped to our front door violation. Front porch lighting too bright after 9 p.m. Rachel laughed. She's out of her mind. I laughed too until I saw her across the street the next day, holding binoculars. She was tracking our light usage. Next came the complaints about our trash bins, then our grass, then our firewood stack, then our dog Hank, who barely barks unless a coyote's around. Every time, a new note, a new friendly reminder. I reminded her, over and over, that we weren't part of her damn HOA. Didn't matter. She kept acting like we were squatting in her kingdom. One day, she tried to invite us to the HOA's community BBQ. I declined, politely. She smirked and said, "Attendance is strongly encouraged for all residents in the zone." I said, "You encourage it all you want. I'm busy that day." She asked which day. I said, "Any day you're having a BBQ." By then, I was already keeping a folder, screenshots, photos, copies of notes, audio recordings, even voicemails. I called the county office again to double-check again that we were outside all HOA control. They confirmed it. Legally. Karen had as much power over us as the guy who sells hot dogs at the gas station. One afternoon, I caught her in my driveway measuring the height of our hedges with a damn ruler. I stepped outside. Real slow. "Karen," I said, "you got about 5 seconds to get off my land." "I'm standing on the easement," she replied, not even blinking. "That's not an easement. That's my driveway. I pay taxes on it. Move." "You're being very aggressive." "Ray," she said, "I'm concerned about your temperament." "Yeah," I said, "I'm concerned about trespassers." That was the last straw. I installed a wrought iron gate with a keypad. Didn't stop her. She started calling me. Left voicemails saying I was blocking emergency access and violating the visual integrity of the neighborhood. One message said, "This gate sends a hostile message to the community." Damn right it does. Rachel suggested a restraining order. I told her to hold off. I wanted to give Karen one last chance to act like a human being. She blew it. It happened on a Wednesday. I was out back, fixing a busted fence post. Hank was dozing in the grass. Rachel was on duty at the dispatch center. Quiet day, until the gate buzzer started going nuts. I checked the camera feed. Karen. Standing there, finger mashed against the intercom like she was calling in an airstrike. I answered. "What do you want?" "You need to open this gate," she said, already yelling. "There's been a complaint. I need to inspect your property immediately." "Karen," I said, calm as I could manage, "you have no authority here. This is private land." "Leave?" "I've been president of this HOA for 7 years, and I've been the owner of this land for 6 months, and I still don't give a fuck." She stared into the camera like she was trying to melt it. "You'll regret this," she hissed, before stomping back to her golf cart and peeling out like it was Fast and Furious HOA drift. I figured that was the end of it for the day. I was wrong. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Motion alert at the gate. I checked the feed. She was back. Pacing. On the phone. I turned up the audio just in time to hear her say, "Yes, I need police dispatched." I heard screaming from inside the house. They're refusing to open the gate. I think someone might be in danger. My jaw dropped. She was calling 911, lying to the goddamn police. I panicked. I tried calling Rachel, no answer. She was on duty, and when she's on shift, she can't take calls. I started pacing myself, mind racing. If Karen used the right buzzwords screaming, "Emergency," potential danger cops might roll up hot. Like guns drawn hot, and I'm the one with the beard, the gait, and the attitude. I'd be the one they treat like a threat. Then I had a thought. What if Rachel had picked up the call? What if the dispatcher Karen just lied to was my wife? I was still pacing the porch, heart beating like a war drum, when I saw the cruiser pull up. Single black and white. Lights not on. So at least it wasn't a hot call. That gave me a little hope. Maybe Rachel had gotten the call. Maybe she'd handled it right. I watched through the camera feed as the cop stepped out, tall guy, late 30s, clean uniform. He walked up to Karen, who practically sprinted toward him, arms flailing like she was flagging down a plane. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her body language said everything dramatic. Finger pointing, lots of head shaking. Then something interesting happened. The cop touched his earpiece, listened. His expression shifted. He turned back toward Karen, said something. She froze mid-sentence. I grabbed my ID and started walking down the gravel drive. I keyed the gate open and stepped through, closing it behind me. "Afternoon, officer," I said, holding up my wallet. "You Ray Dalton?" "Yes, sir. I'm Officer Reed. We received a call about a possible domestic situation at this address." I nodded. "Yeah, and I'm guessing it came from her." I gestured toward Karen, who was now staring at me like I'd just ruined her birthday. "She said she heard screaming," he said carefully. "Said you refused to open the gate." "Officer, I've got security footage, and I've been standing alone on my property all morning, fixing a fence and drinking coffee. There's been no screaming, no emergency, and no visitors except her." He nodded. "Mind if I confirm a few details? Go ahead. Your wife's name is Rachel Dalton." "Yep, she's a dispatcher for County 911. The second I said it." His face shifted again, a little smile, a tiny exhale. "I figured." "She flagged the call as suspicious and gave us context. She also said this woman has been harassing you for months." Karen stepped forward, shrill as a tea kettle. "That's not true. He's twisting things. I was just trying to protect the community. I heard something. I swear." Officer Reed didn't flinch. "Ma'am, the dispatcher recognized your voice in this address. We also have a record of past non-emergency complaints made by you, all dismissed. I have a duty as HOA president," Karen snapped. "I'm allowed to monitor violations. Not on private property outside your jurisdiction," he replied. She tried to keep the act going, but you could see it unraveling. Her hands were shaking. She looked around and realized half the neighborhood had started watching. People were coming out of their houses, phones in hand. A few were even recording. Reed looked at me. "You have any documentation?" I handed him the folder labeled Karen Files, the same one I'd been building for months. Photos, voicemails, notes she taped to our door, dates, times, even GPS stamps. He flipped through it slowly. His partner, Officer Gonzalez, had arrived by then and was reading over his shoulder. Karen was losing color by the second. Finally, Reed looked at her and said, "Ma'am, you're being placed under arrest for filing a false police report and misusing emergency services." "What?" "You can't." "No, I was just doing my job. I heard screaming." "We reviewed the audio," Gonzalez said. "There was no screaming. You also said similar things in past calls involving other residents who didn't comply with HOA demands. This is a pattern." Karen turned toward me. "You set me up." "No." "Karen," I said, arms crossed, "you did this to yourself." The handcuffs clicked, loud and clear. Karen stiffened like someone had poured ice water down her spine. "You can't do this," she shrieked. "I'm the president of the HOA, not anymore," someone muttered from the crowd. A few neighbors started clapping. I shit you, not actual clapping. The cops didn't gloat, didn't smile. They were professional. But they didn't stop the applause either. They just guided her toward the back of the cruiser as she shouted nonsense about bylaws and community order. I stayed quiet. Just watched. She turned one last time before they shut the door and spat through the window. "This isn't over, Ray." I leaned down, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "Actually, Karen, I think it is." Click. Door shut. Tires rolled. Peace. The silence that followed was beautiful. One of the neighbors, old man Jenkins, hadn't spoken to me once in 6 months, walked over and said, "We've been waiting for someone to stand up to her." "Should have said something," I replied. He shrugged. "We didn't have a gate." Rachel got off her shift that afternoon and called me from the parking lot. Voice dry but proud. You owe me dinner, she said. I owe you a fucking statue. She laughed. I flagged her call the moment I recognized her voice. Logged everything. Filed it under Code 11, harassment pattern. She's going to jail. She'll get processed. Probably let out with a court date. But everything's recorded. She's screwed. And she was. 3 weeks later, we got a summons to testify. Karen pled not guilty. Naturally, but Rachel's dispatch log, my footage, and the growing stack of neighbor testimonies did her in. She got hit with a $5,000 fine, twice on 200 hours of community service. 1 year probation. A restraining order, 100 feet minimum. No contact, but the cherry on top. The HOA board voted her out. Unanimously. Apparently, I wasn't the only one she'd been terrorizing. Turns out, she fined a guy $50 for having Halloween decorations out on November 2nd. Another family was cited for having too many sunflowers. They held a special meeting. She showed up, arms crossed, binder in hand, and walked out without a title. Word is, she tried to sue the HOA for wrongful dismissal. Lost that. 2. Haven't seen her since. Our mailbox still standing. Our gate still locked. Our peace beautiful. And as for the sign hanging on our fence now, hand-carved by yours truly. Private property, not in HOA. Trespassers will be recorded, reported, and roasted. Sometimes I sit on the porch and sip coffee, just imagining her face reading that. And every now and then, I smile and think, bless your heart, Karen. 3 weeks after Karen got hauled off like a rotten potato in handcuffs, peace finally started to settle in again. No more weird notes on my door. No more golf cart surveillance patrols. No more clipboard-wielding banshee screaming about mailbox height. Just me, Rachel, Hank, a cold beer, and 12 acres of blessed HOA-free dirt. We even had neighbors stopping by to say thanks. Turns out, Karen had pissed off just about everyone from here to the end of Oakwood Estates. The mailbox guy, the Halloween decoration lady. Hell, even the pastor down the road said she once fined him for excessive bird feeders. For a while, life was good again, until the letters started showing up. The first one came in a sleek, official-looking envelope. Oakwood Estates letterhead. The logo redesigned, Karen's name removed. Inside a notice of zoning adjustment proposal. What the hell is a zoning adjustment? Apparently, the new HOA board, freshly elected, smelling of lavender and self-importance, had decided to expand their authority boundaries in accordance with updated community development expectations. Translation: they were trying to rope my land back into the HOA. I nearly choked on my coffee. I called Rachel over. She read it, laughed. They're bold. Dumber than Karen. But bolder? I wasn't amused. Week later. Another letter. This time, dear Mr. Dalton, we are requesting your cooperation in upcoming compliance reviews involving all visually connected properties. Failure to comply may result in neighborhood devaluation reports submitted to county zoning boards. County zoning boards. Now, they were trying to go above us, get the county involved. I called up our property attorney, a guy named Vern. Old school, mean, and as expensive as hell. He looked over the documents and said, they're fishing. Legally, they've got no teeth yet. But they're testing boundaries. You push back hard. Now. So I did. I wrote a formal cease and desist, had it notarized, sent it to the entire HOA board certified mail. Stamped it with a big ol' signature at the bottom. This property is private, not under your jurisdiction. Contact again and I will pursue legal action. Rachel wanted to post it on the mailbox like a war banner. I did one better. Hung a wooden sign at the gate that read, not in HOA, not interested. Move along. Thought that would shut it down. I was wrong. The next escalation came in the form of a new neighbor. Big white pickup, California plates. Moved in 2 lots down from Oakwood's edge. His name was Greg. Nice guy. At first glance. Brought over beer and talked about how he hated rules too. Said he used to live in a place where he got fined for painting his house the wrong kind of gray. We laughed about it. Bonded over HOA horror stories? Man, I'm just glad there's someone around here with common sense. He said, sipping my Coors. You really stood up to that Karen chick. Felt good to hear that. Like maybe we weren't alone. A week later, Greg invited me to a community review meeting. Said the HOA had been tamed since Karen left, and some of the new folks were reasonable. I declined. He pushed. Come on, I just show up. No obligations. You don't even have to talk. Against my better judgment, I went. The meeting was in one of those fake community centers, HOA neighborhoods, love building. Like a school gym had a baby with a real estate brochure. Smelled like bleach and lukewarm coffee. I walked in and instantly regretted it. The chairs were lined up in neat rows, clipboards everywhere. Everyone looked like they were either a realtor or someone who tells waiters their salad was too enthusiastic. Greg waved me over, all smiles. Ray, glad you came. Man. I nodded, arms crossed. Scanning the room, up front stood a new board. Fresh faces. No Karen, thank God, but not much better. The president now was some guy named Brent Tan, polished, dressed like a golf pro who sells supplements on the side. Before we begin, Brent said into the mic, we'd like to acknowledge Mr. Dalton, who is in attendance tonight. I froze. What the hell? Everyone turned to look at me. Greg grinned. Told you they wanted to make peace. Uh-huh, I muttered. Brent kept going. We understand Mr. Dalton's property is currently outside our jurisdiction, but we'd like to extend an invitation to rejoin the Oakwood Community Guidelines framework. I stood up. No. Laughter. Awkward. Tight. Brent raised his hands. I understand your hesitation. But in the spirit of community harmony, we've passed a motion, a non-binding one, that outlines visual compliance standards for all street-facing lots. There it was. The Karen virus in a new host. I shook my head. Let me stop you right there. Brent, your framework means nothing to me. Your HOA has no legal claim over my land. I've got county docs, title insurance, and a folder thicker than your mortgage to prove it. Some folks chuckled. Others looked like I'd slapped a Bible. Brent smiled too wide. We believe in positive reinforcement. Of course, there are incentives to voluntarily comply. Incentives, I raised an eyebrow. Certain insurance companies may offer premium discounts to compliant homes. There's also a proposed partnership with a local zoning advisory group to streamline property reviews. Translation threats with a smile. I turned to Greg. You brought me here for this. He looked nervous. I didn't know I cut him off. Yeah, you did. I walked out, didn't even grab a cookie. Next day, I got an email from the HOA's legal team. An actual legal firm real letterhead. Big-ass signature at the bottom stating that I was creating obstruction for adjacent community cohesion and refusing reasonable aesthetic alignment. And that they were reviewing options including county appeals for eminent domain reassessment. Eminent fucking domain. They were threatening to steal my land. That was the moment I snapped. I called Vern, my lawyer. Burn them. I said he didn't ask questions. We filed a preemptive lawsuit within 48 hours. Cease and desist. Declaratory relief to affirm I was outside all HOA authority. Tortious interference for the insurance and zoning crap. And a good old civil harassment claim. Just for flavor, cost me $5,000 to file. Worth every penny. And here's the fun part once it went public record. Other neighbors started calling me. Turns out this new HOA had tried similar crap with 3 other homeowners on the fringe. We formed a coalition. Yeah, me. The Halloween lady. The bird feeder pastor. Even Greg. Eventually turns out he'd been pressured into helping bridge the gap and was pissed about being used. Rachel created a folder called HOA Wars Phase 2. And we went to war. But before court day came, the HOA made one last desperate move. They sent a compliance officer to my gate. Guy was young, polo shirt, sunglasses, iPad in hand. Looked like a failed Best Buy manager. "You're trespassing," I said through the intercom. "I'm here for a visual inspection," he replied. "Great. You can visually inspect my middle finger." He smirked, snapped a few photos, and walked off. I called Vern. He subpoenaed the HOA's board meeting minutes. Guess what? They disapproved internal resolutions trying to redefine the HOA's visual zone as enforceable even without owner consent. That's illegal in this state. Judge laughed them out of court. Not only did I win, I got awarded partial legal fees. HOA was forced to issue a written apology, remove my address from all documents, and place a 5-year non-engagement notice on file, which means they legally can't contact me about HOA matters for half a damn decade. Brent resigned. Karen rumors she tried to run for office on the school board. She lost by a landslide. Now I sip my whiskey on the porch. Mailbox still standing, gate still locked, Hank still sleeping, and right below my no HOA wooden sign. I've carved a new one. Try me again. Motherfuckers. Because peace. Well, peace ain't free. It started with a letter, not to me, to Rachel, stamped confidential, sent from the County Department of Emergency Services, inside notice of internal review, allegation of conflict of interest regarding 911 dispatcher conduct. Rachel read it 3 times before saying a word. Then she handed it to me. Her hands were shaking. "You gotta be kidding me," I muttered. Someone had filed a complaint, anonymous, claimed that when she answered Karen's 911 call, she failed to recuse herself despite personal connection to the residents, and may have manipulated dispatch protocols. Total bullshit. Rachel follows protocol like it's gospel. She's by the book, always has been. I've seen her give me the cold shoulder for leaving the milk out, let alone breaking federal dispatch law. "This is retaliation," she said quietly. "They're coming after me now." We both knew who they were. HOA, or what was left of them. Probably Brent. Maybe Karen pulling strings from the shadows? Someone had pulled a dirty move and aimed it right at the one person they thought I couldn't protect with a gate. Rachel. She was placed on administrative review the following Monday. No pay. No calls, no desk. Just waiting. I was furious, but Rachel, she was calm. "I want to handle this the right way," she said. "If I overreact, they win." I nodded. But inside, I was already sharpening my tools figuratively and literally. I started digging. Public records, law firm directories, HOA board minutes. I wanted to know who the hell had weaponized the damn dispatcher office. Took me 2 days, but I found it. The HOA had hired a private law firm 2 months ago. Dunham and Keyes, you're real sharp. Real dirty. Known for civil pressure tactics, which is rich people speak for legal bullying. Their specialty, creating legal problems that scare folks into submission. Their method: find pressure points, jobs, families, businesses, then poke until something gives, and someone at that firm had helped draft the complaint against Rachel. It was written in legal language too sharp for Karen to manage, and too exact to be coincidence. I compared the language in the HOA letters I'd received weeks earlier, same phrasing. They weren't just trying to shut us up. They were trying to destroy us. Rachel, meanwhile, spent her days compiling her own defense, dispatch call logs, training manuals, internal protocol, shift schedules, even the full transcript of Karen's 911 call. Turns out, Karen lied in her official complaint too. In her 911 call, she'd never said she recognized the dispatcher's voice. But in her follow-up letter, probably written with help from HOA's lawyers, she claimed Rachel revealed her identity mid-call and refused to escalate. Total lie. Rachel played me the call. Her voice was cool, professional. She followed protocol to the damn letter. Even flagged the call for a welfare check rather than an emergency response, which likely saved Karen from being charged with felony abuse of emergency resources. She doesn't even realize I did her a favor, Rachel muttered. Typical, I growled. Stupid people rarely do. We thought we were alone again, but then the calls started. Neighbors, ex-911 coworkers, even a fireman from the next county over. Hey, is it true they're going after Rachel? You guys need backup. We've been dealing with the same firm. They're poison. Turns out Dunham and Keyes had a reputation. They'd done the same thing to 2 other neighborhoods nearby, bullying elderly homeowners into fake compliance, exploiting fine print, and filing fake anonymous complaints to discredit community members who resisted. One woman lost her job at the school board. Another had her fence condemned by a zoning agent that turned out to be a junior paralegal with a measuring tape. Rachel looked at me and said, "It's time." Rachel put on her dispatcher uniform the morning of the hearing. Not required, but symbolic. "I'm not just defending myself," she said. "I'm defending everyone they think they can steamroll." She walked into that county building like a soldier into a firefight. The review board had 5 people, 3 from emergency services, 1 from legal oversight, and 1 citizen advocate who looked suspiciously like someone who ironed their socks. On the other side, a rep from the HOA, not Brent, not Karen, not even a board member. Nope. They sent a damn lawyer from Dunham and Keyes. Young, arrogant, blue tie, briefcase that probably cost more than my pickup. He stood up and started rattling off his crap pattern of misconduct. Negligence in dispatch, potential bias due to personal involvement, compromised neutrality. It was all buzzwords. Then Rachel stood. No theatrics, no fluff, just receipts. She played the full 911 call, line by line. Her voice steady, Karen's voice loud, dramatic, and absolutely unhinged. She broke down the call log timestamps, status flags, routing decisions. She highlighted the specific code she used, code 72, welfare check, known harassment history. She presented the HOA's official letters, showing the same phrasing used in the anonymous complaint. Then she dropped the bomb A cross-reference between the IP address of the emailed complaint and the Dunham and Keyes law firm office. The whole room went still. The young lawyer blinked. He hadn't seen that one coming. According to email metadata, Rachel said calmly, this complaint was not from an anonymous citizen. It was drafted and submitted using the network belonging to Dunham and Keyes, the same law firm retained by the Oakwood Estates HOA in an ongoing civil matter with my husband. Boom. The board looked at each other. Then the citizen advocate spoke for the first time. Miss Dalton, are you implying that the HOA attempted to weaponize the 911 complaint system as a form of civil retaliation? I'm not implying anything, Rachel said. I'm stating it directly. The board called for a short recess. When they returned, the verdict was swift. All charges dismissed, no violation found. Dispatcher Rachel Dalton is fully reinstated. Further, this board recommends investigation into misuse of the complaint system by external parties. Rachel shook their hands and walked out calm as ever. Me, I was waiting in the parking lot. Arms crossed, jaw locked tight. When I saw her walk out with that little half smile on her face, I damn near kissed the ground. That night, we popped a bottle of whiskey and sat by the fire pit. The stars were out. Hank was snoring under the porch swing. And Rachel, for once, looked tired in a good way. They came for the wrong dispatcher, I said. She chuckled. They always underestimate the quiet ones. Next day, Vern filed a motion to amend our existing suit, now including claims for malicious interference and attempted character assassination. The HOA, they went radio silent. Brent stepped down. The lawyer from Dunham & Keyes stopped responding to our filings, probably got yanked by the firm. Karen's still gone? But somehow, I get the feeling she ain't done. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day where the sky looks like someone spilled milk across blue velvet. Quiet. Still. A little too still. I was fixing a loose hinge on the barn door when Greg came tearing up the drive in his truck. "Ray," he said, barely breathing. "You need to hear this. Someone die worse. HOA is holding a secret meeting tonight. Brent's gone, but someone new's taking the lead. And Karen? She's coming back." I dropped my wrench. "You sure?" He nodded. "I heard it from Janine. She saw Karen at the cafe with two guys in suits. One of them was the Dunham & Keyes lawyer." I wiped my hands on a rag and muttered, "Son of a bitch." The meeting was at the Oakwood Estates clubhouse. No flyer. No announcement. Invitation only. So naturally, I showed up uninvited. Rachel stayed home. She didn't need to see this mess again. But Hank came along, sat in the passenger seat like a furry shotgun rider. I didn't go into guns blazing, just walked in through the back entrance like I belonged there. And sure enough, there she was. Karen. Same pantsuit, same dead-eyed stare. But something was different. She looked smaller, not physically, just deflated, like someone popped her ego with a thumbtack. The room had maybe 20 people, mostly board members and HOA elite. The lawyer was there too, blue tie, still smug as hell. Karen stood at the front, holding a folder. Her voice shook when she spoke. "I've returned because the board has asked me to advise on restoring order after recent disruptions." Disruptions. That's what she called being arrested on her own street. But the mood in the room wasn't one of loyalty. No applause, no welcome back signs. Just cold silence and forced smiles. Then one of the newer board members, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia, stood up. "Karen, let's not pretend this is a favor. We asked you to return because the board is fractured, but don't overplay your role." Karen blinked. "Excuse me." Patricia stepped forward. "We know you've been in contact with the firm again. You've been negotiating contracts behind the board's back. You're not here to help. You're here to take control again." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold. Karen opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Patricia slammed a folder on the table. "These are the draft letters you were preparing to send to county zoning. With your name as signatory, you were going to reattempt jurisdictional expansion without a vote." The room erupted. Accusations, shouting, legal terms flying like mosquitoes at a swamp wedding. Karen tried to defend herself. I was trying to protect the neighborhood. I've always protected this neighborhood. Someone yelled, "You protected your ego." "Karen, you're a tyrant with a clipboard." I chuckled. Couldn't help it. Karen spotted me in the back. She froze. Then, for the first time in her smug little life, she looked embarrassed. The room quieted. All eyes turned to me. "Well," I said, stepping forward, "looks like y'all are doing just fine without me." Karen walked outside 10 minutes later. Alone. I followed. She didn't say anything at first, just stood by the flagpole, arms folded, breathing like she'd run a marathon. Then she turned and said, "I didn't come back to fight you." Funny way of showing it. I replied, "I was trying to stop them." I raised an eyebrow. "The new board," she continued. "They're worse than I ever was." Brent was soft. "Patricia, she's calculating. They want to turn this place into a full-on gated community. Cameras on every house, security patrols, background checks on new residents. They even discussed using drones for perimeter monitoring. My jaw tightened. I made mistakes. Ray, I know that. But these people, they're playing a whole different game. I leaned against the rail. So what? You want my help? She hesitated, then nodded. They listen to you now. You've got the trust I lost. If you speak at the next General Assembly, they'll hear you. You can stop this. I stared at her. This woman had harassed me, lied to the cops, tried to ruin my wife's career, and now she was asking for help. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, Karen, let me ask you something. She nodded. If this was 6 months ago and the roles were reversed, would you help me? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. 3 days later, I showed up at the General Assembly. The room was packed. Neighbors, board members, curious folks who just wanted to see what old man Ray would say. I didn't come to shout. I didn't come to burn it all down. I came with one thing in mind. Make them look in the damn mirror. I stepped up to the mic, cleared my throat, and said, Name's Ray Dalton. I live out past the Oak Ridge with my wife Rachel, our dog Hank, and a non-compliant mailbox. A few chuckles, a few glares. I've lived in a lot of places. Cities, towns, backwoods, trailer parks. I've seen rules that worked, and rules that broke good people. What you've got here. This HOA, I paused. It started with a woman who measured hedges with a goddamn ruler. Now you're talking about drones, gates, and background checks. You're not protecting a community, you're building a prison with granite countertops. Dead silence. Karen may have been a tyrant. I continued. But at least she was upfront about it. This new board, you smile in people's faces while you gut their rights behind closed doors. I looked straight at Patricia. Let me be clear, I don't want to roll in your HOA. I don't want a seat, a title, or a damn clipboard. What I want is to be left alone. Pause. But I also want the people here, the quiet ones, to know they're not crazy. That they're allowed to say no. That a community isn't made of lawn heights and matching fences. It's made of people. People who barbecue too loud. Who paint their shutters weird colors. Who grow sunflowers out of season and fly the wrong damn flag on the wrong damn day. Scattered applause. Then it grew. Someone stood up and clapped. Then another. By the time I walked away from the mic, half the room was on its feet. Patricia didn't say a word. Karen, she just nodded once, Spawn, and left through the side door. A week later, I got a letter from the HOA, but this time it wasn't a threat. It was an apology. And a new motion passed by vote. No property outside the original HOA boundary shall ever again be subject to visual compliance or aesthetic oversight. Guess who introduced the motion, Greg? Yeah, the beer guy turned out all right after all. And me, I'm back to porch, sitting. Rachel's back at dispatch. Hank still sleeps like a damn rock. And on the gate right under the old not an HOA sign, I've hung a new board. Carved it myself. Took 2 hours and a strong drink. It reads, "We mind our business. You mind yours." Welcome to the free side of the fence. So what's the moral of the story? Simple. Don't ever let a clipboard and a fake smile trick you into giving up your fence, your voice, or your damn freedom. Some people hide behind rules because they're scared of losing control. And some of us, we build gates. If there's one thing I learned from this mess, it's this. You gotta stand your ground, even if it means pissing off the whole damn neighborhood. Because once you let them in, they don't stop at your hedges. They'll be measuring your damn soul next. If you made it this far, you're my kind of people. Hit that like button if you've ever dealt with a neighbor who thinks they're the sheriff of the suburbs. Subscribe to HOA Karen Files for more true stories about HOA hellscapes, fake authority, and how to fight back without losing your mind. And hey, drop a comment and tell me what your HOA horror story is. I might just read it in the next one. Until then, keep your gates locked your camera's rolling, and your mailbox exactly how the hell you want it. This is Ray, signing off from the free side of the fence. Subscribe for more HOA drama only on HOA Karen Files. Got a story? Drop it in the comments. We might feature it next.